Another unidentified flying object has been downed by US combat aircraft in North American airspace. The latest incident came on Sunday over Lake Huron. It's the fourth object shot down by US fighter jets in 8 days, along with ones over Alaska and Canada and a suspected Chinese spy balloon. Well, I'm joined on set by France24's international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert. Hi, Doug. So how big a deal is this?
Let's take a giant step back, first of all. This is a story which has largely been taken hostage by domestic U.S. politics, and more specifically, by the political climate within the GOP, the Republican Party. This scenario is custom scripted. You couldn't have written up a better scenario for a Republican Party that is fired up by an anti-China obsession, an obsession which grew to absolutely otherworldly proportions under Donald Trump, who couldn't get enough of bashing China just for the sake of bashing China and playing to his base, plus trigger-happy and paranoia. If you read the breathless, almost hyperbolic coverage of this story in a lot of the U.S. press, not all of it, some is more responsible than others, obviously, you get the sense that this is deep impact meets Armageddon, that U.S. national security, there is a grave threat at any moment, from anywhere to the annihilation of full populations to biowarfare. I am not joking. Donald Trump Jr., the son of the former president, basically put out a tweet which all but incites Montana citizens. This was when he was going over Montana, one of the objects, to go out with their guns and basically shoot the thing down, without explicitly saying it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the notorious fringe far-right extremist in the Republican Party, she basically said if the average Joe should go out there and shoot it down because the average China Joe won't. This is sort of the tone that you're getting in the among a lot of the Republican Party here. Like I said, it's driven by a desire to bash Joe Biden and the Democrats at any cost, derive political benefit, cash in the chips there, make Biden look weak. No matter what the response is, he will be bashed for this. And at the same time, it's not to deny, yeah, obviously, there are some concerns about this. There are concerns, but let's put this in the context. China and the U.S. have been spying on each other using all sorts of surveillance, whether satellites or balloons, for a long time, for decades. This hasn't come out of nowhere. It has come out of somewhere now, and we seem to be seeing a repetition of these types of incidents because they are now hyper-vigilant, whereas before they weren't hyper-vigilant. So it's not to say obviously, it's a concern when you have espionage from any country and another, and especially given the fact that China is now seen as the arch nemesis and the growing arch enemy of the United States, it's going to derive some political momentum. But you have to take a step back when you think about this story. It is not the earthquake in Turkey. It is not the war in Ukraine.
So when they inspect all the debris and look at what was in these balloons, UFOs,
yep,
what might they find, you reckon?
What might they find? What are they finding? Well, first of all, you put that question correctly, very cautiously and prudently, because they are, Angela, right now still collecting debris. The last three objects have been shot down. Now, I'm not talking about the very first one on February 4th, which was a Chinese airship, which was shot down off the coast of South Carolina in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean, where they do have in military intelligence in the U.S. has very strong reason to believe that it was not just a weather balloon, as the Chinese have contended, but something much more, part of a broad-based surveillance program. These latest objects, though, who knows? And I literally mean that. People are talking about these objects as if they have all this information that we do not have yet. Debris has to be collected. Like I said, these objects, which were much smaller than the initial one, ranging in the size to a small car. One was a small object, which people said had strings attached to it, but they don't really know what it was, shot down over lakes, shot down over remote territory in northern Canada, in the Yukon Territory, in Alaska. So they really do need to painstakingly collect this debris, some of which, in the case of the first one, is still on the ocean floor, and try to determine exactly what it was and what exactly the threat was. These were unmanned, to the best of their knowledge, unmanned balloons. So at this point, it's fair to say that they are in the information gathering phase. But it's hardly like you could take that line from Casablanca, I'm shocked, see, there's spying going on here. Yeah, that Chinese airship probably was on some sort of surveillance mission. Does that mean that it's going to be deep impact and America's coming to an end tomorrow? Absolutely not. U.S. officials are trying to say they have played the game as responsibly as they could. They didn't want to shoot down the airship right away. They let it travel, yes, over the U.S. because they didn't want to shoot it down over populated areas and risk hurting people on the ground, having scattered debris hit people in populated, dense areas. So they let it drift for a while tracking it. The Republicans have turned this into a narrative, flipping it on its head. A responsible, weak Biden administration letting China attack us in a deep impact / Armageddon-like scenario. So yeah, we're still gathering information in the United States. We don't know the whole story, but it is safe to say the story is nothing on the stratospheric catastrophe that a lot of the Republican Party is trying to cast it as right now.
Thank you. France 24's international affairs commentator Doug Herbert there.